What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of Capturing the Game. It's the Game Within the Game podcast. Today, I'm flying solo. Today, my partner couldn't make it, so it's just me, the co-host Desmond Jones. And today, we got another fantastic guest, Melissa Manta. How are you doing today, Melissa?
Oh, great. Just living in beautiful New York City right now, sitting in the
Yeah,
office, having a great day. Happy Wednesday.
yeah. I'm almost jealous that you have such a beautiful background right now. Like you have the city behind you. I kind of envy that view right now.
Yeah, it's definitely Park Ave is a nice view to have when you're looking outside your window.
That's outstanding. So, can you tell yourself? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself so the audience can get to know you?
Sure. So, hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Menta. I am working at the NFL in football communications and marketing. I have been working here for this is going to be going into my sixth season. That's how we kind of measure everything here. It's not necessarily years, it's by seasons. So I graduated from NYU in 2016. I've pretty much been working here ever since. At NYU, I also played soccer, was two-time captain there. And I pretty much always knew I wanted to work in sports ever since I was little. I mean, my parents threw me into every sport you can imagine. And I gravitated towards soccer because I had a lot of energy and soccer is a lot of running. So that worked out well for me, but knew that I wasn't going to be a professional soccer player. That wasn't going to be what I was doing forever. So I figured, why not take this passion and move it into the business side of sports. So when I was an undergrad, I studied sports business at NYU, did a bunch of really cool internships from nonprofits to startups to large organizations, and then really found a niche in my role here within football communications and marketing. What we do here is focus on player relations across the league. So we work, internally with all of our departments like sponsorship and marketing and events, whatever it may be, as well as externally with all 32 club teams and some of our other vendors, including Huddle, ESPN, things like that. So our main focus is just making sure we're a service to the players.
That's fantastic. What position did you play in soccer?
I was forward.
Oh,
So I liked running. I liked running fast, and I liked scoring goals. So
okay, okay.
good fit.
Um, what inspired you? I know you always had a passion for sports, but what was that kind of like instilled in you? Were you just always around sports growing up? What helped you or what inspired you to really to get you to where you are today?
I think honestly, it was just being around sports my whole life and realizing that, my social groups were always because of sports. I was able to, get opportunities that I normally wouldn't through sports. My family always came around and came together around sports, whether that was football games on Sundays, going to Yankee games growing up. We're big Yankees fans over here. Grew up in New York, so I remember that was like everything that we did. Is it just to me it was always a way to create community, to bring people together. And for me, it was always just a means of having a really good friend group, having really cool opportunities to do things. And I just thought that, because it meant so much to me growing up that even when I wasn't going to be playing, I wanted to be involved.
What was it like what was the application process for applying for the role that you're in today?
So I actually got this role after getting denied from another role. So if there's anything I could say, is just keep trying and being annoying. So there was a role that I applied to when I was still in college that I ended up interviewing for and not getting. And kept in touch with hiring managers and things like that, and they kept my resume on file. Which at first I was like, "Oh yeah, you're going to keep my resume? Yeah, okay, I'll believe that when I see it." And then, a couple of months down the road, they ended up calling me back for a different role that I had applied for, came in for that interview. And then, the rest is history. I've been in the same department since I started. I was really lucky to kind of get into something that I really was passionate about just off the bat. And I'm also really lucky that, since I've started, our department has almost tripled in size. So my scope has been able to change and grow with me. And it's been really awesome. But yeah, I applied essentially just online. I tried to make some connections through my internships and through my undergraduate programs. And then, just kept, like I said, being annoying until eventually I got an interview.
That's awesome. Were you so growing up in New York? Were you a Giants fan or a Jets fan?
Giants fan for sure. Definitely
Okay.
Giants and Yankees. That was those were the two main teams that I grew up watching and going to games. And I think that that's, like I said, a big part of why I wanted to work in sports. Just obviously the Giants had won a couple Super Bowls a couple years ago before we're having this reorg right now, or this rebuild. So that was really cool. I remember going to the parades in the city, and like I said, going to Yankee games all the time with my dad. So those are my teams.
Okay, I always had to ask because
Mm.
just being in those sports towns with those two, two teams in the same sports, like Chicago, for example, you got the White Sox and the Cubs, or
Mhm.
we think about them LA teams in basketball when you got like the Clippers and the Lakers. So how is the fandom being in that city with being either having like Jets fans or Giants fans? Is it like a clash, or is it like, oh, okay, we accept you even though that you're rooting for the other team?
Yeah, we definitely butt heads. I think that the split generally is, if you're from Long Island, you're a Jets, a Mets, and an Islanders fan. If you're from Westchester, you're more of a Giants, Yankees fan, Rangers, things like that. And then the New Jersey people kind of like, and the Connecticut people kind of go in between, because sometimes Connecticut you'll get New York fans and you'll get Boston fans. But I think that we butt heads. We're not in the same division, so that's obviously like helpful. But we
Right.
definitely butt heads until it's time for like the playoffs, and then whoever's in the playoffs we support them, which is the Giants. It's never the Jets. Let's just put that out there.
That is true. That it has been a long time
Mhm,
since the Jets has made the playoffs.
mhm.
So, um, what's one other than being around sports? What's some of the like your favorite parts about your job? Like, tell me about a little bit about your day to day operations.
Sure. I think off the bat, my favorite thing about my job is getting to learn about and support what players are doing beyond the field. So a lot of what I do is I focus on their content and media strategy around player stories. I work very closely with our internal and external partners on that. We create features. We also have a podcast series. We do a lot on social media, and getting to learn what these guys are doing outside of their day-to-day football careers is just, it's incredible. There are a lot of things that fans and other people don't know about. A lot of community service that they're doing, a lot of like really cool interests, like things that you would never really expect. And it's been super rewarding to kind of elevate what those guys are doing. So we work with current players and former players on all of that stuff, and it's been, that's definitely like my favorite part of what I do. And I of course work with really really great people too. So that makes it a lot easier when you have a good community around you.
No, I absolutely agree with that. So one of the things like on Capturing the Game, we like to hear about
Mm-hmm.
the stories that people don't really know much about. Are there any players or any people that you feel comfortable with mentioning, like what are they currently doing in the community, so that you could share it with us?
Sure, I could just off the cuff, because we were just talking to him at in Cleveland for draft. Is Kelvin Beachum? He's doing a lot in the diversity and inclusion space. He's part of the Players Coalition. He's a really great partner, and he's just been very active in those spaces. And I think there's honestly nothing that Kelvin doesn't do. So when we were talking to him, we were like, "Kid, what do you not do? What do you still like working on?" He does everything. So he's been fantastic. Trying to think of some others that we've talked to recently. We had a former player come on, and I'm going to butcher his last name, but his name is Chris, and his last name starts with a K. But I can send you his name after this. And he started a cosmetic company.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was like super interesting. A former player who started a cosmetic company with his mom. So it's like things like that you would
Yeah.
just never really expect. And then you have somebody like Justin Tuck, who now works at Goldman Sachs. So you have like all of these like really, really great players, some big names, some, not so big names that are doing just really awesome things.
No, that's always good to hear about stories of, because you always wonder what athletes are doing in life after the sport, especially
Mhm.
football in particular. So it's good to always hear about stories about people that are doing stuff after football, whether they're starting their own business, especially, a family business when you get your mom involved. I think that's very
Mhm.
special and important.
Mhm.
What's did you have any role models or mentors while you was going through your undergrad, or while you've been in the industry that's helped or shaped your career to where you are today?
Sure. I definitely will say that one of my professors, his name is David Hollander. I still keep in touch with him regularly now. He was, a huge supporter of me. He was a great mentor to me. And I know, every time I had a question about something that was going on in the industry or needed help preparing for an interview, he would always make time, to talk me through it, to get me thinking in different ways and to really like, push my thought process beyond just what I was used to. So he's been awesome. Like I said, I still keep in touch with him every once in a while. Pre-COVID, I would go back to NYU's campus, speak to some of his students. So he's been just a huge supporter of mine. In addition, I would have to say my dad. I feel like it's a little cliche, but my dad just made it on his own and kind of just he works in a completely different industry, but the values he's taught me about just pushing forward and keeping your eyes on the prize, for lack of a better term, and not accepting no for an answer in certain situations, that I think has definitely helped me get to where I am. And he's been a huge resource when I'm trying to figure out, what should I be thinking about next? What should I be doing next? Like, how should I be expanding my skills? So my dad is definitely, my number one fan.
No, go! Shout out to all the dads out there. No,
Yeah.
it's very important, especially when you have like your parents in your life, for people to have your parents be able to motivate you, or just be able to take certain things and certain aspects from your parents to just apply from your life, especially when
Mhm.
they lived it, and just take some of their wisdom and just apply it. So it's always helpful when you have parents in your life. It creates a or establishes a foundation,
Mhm.
a starting point. So knowing what you know now, was there anything that you would do differently?
As far as career is concerned,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think that, there's no such thing as like a straight path to where you want to go. And so anybody who tells you that is lying. So I think that my path has been anything but straight. And I'm sure it will continue to be anything but straight. So I think that I am where I am because of all of the imperfections that I hit along the way, if that makes sense. I learned very quickly what I didn't like doing through a lot of my internships. And still trying to figure out where I want to go in the future, but I don't think I would necessarily change anything. I think everything kind of happens for a reason. um, Except I would definitely say I wish I invested in Bitcoin in 2010. So
Man,
yeah.
man,
then
don't we
nobody
all?
would need to be working right now, but
Right?
other than that, I think everything happens for a reason. I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah. Speaking of Bitcoin, the latest one to invest in right now is Doge. So
Hmm.
that's the one that's been driving. It's been going up like crazy
Yeah.
right now. So
Like crazy. And it's funny because I have a Shiba Inu. My parents do. My mom has a Shiba Inu dog. And
yeah.
so we just think it's hilarious that, we see like the Dogecoin everywhere because it's like it looks exactly like my dog.
That's
Mhm.
funny.
Mhm.
That's funny. So with this upcoming NFL season, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to? So now we have the draft, we got training camps coming up next, and then the start of the
Mhm.
season. What are you looking forward to from your team this year?
I think I'm just looking forward to kind of getting back to some sense of normalcy. I mean, the draft
Mhm.
in Cleveland was pretty close to that. We obviously had a lot of restrictions and we still had to wear, PPE and get tested and all of that stuff, contact tracing. But I'm really excited to see, where we go this season as far as getting back to having fans in the stadiums, having full attendance, not having to test players all the time. I think that, we did, and everybody who was part of the organization did a really phenomenal job at making the 2020 season possible. So really excited to see what is coming this 2021 season. As far as what we're working on specifically, we have our hands pretty full with expanding youth participation, both with youth and high school football overseas. So I'm obviously that was a little bit stalled during the pandemic. So really excited to see how we could pick that back up again. And then, like I said, just continuing to highlight what players are doing and providing resources to them. And I feel like we get to, when we're on site, obviously there was no traveling the past year for the most part. So when we're on site at kickoff and when we go to Pro Bowl and Super Bowl and Combine and all of those things, that's when we really get to make those connections with players. And we also have a mentorship component too, where we connect former players with current players. So it's just a really, really cool camaraderie when you see the guys all together. So I'm excited to get back to that because that's, again, one of my favorite part of my jobs.
That does sound fantastic. How often or how much do you like interact or talk to like the players on the team, either both current and former?
So for my role, I would say pretty frequently. We have a lot of contacts at each of the club teams, as well as agents, stuff like that, who will come to us and be like, "Hey, like so and so is doing X, Y, Z. Do we have any interest in talking to him about it, promoting it, whatever it may be?" So we kind of work with teams and agents on that, as well as when we're on site. So I mean, everything we do is player driven and player focused. So we do have a separate team, our player marketing team, that works directly with the agents on a day-to-day basis, booking player appearances and hosting player programs and things like that. So like I said, we're more on the content and communication side. So but it's really important to continue those conversations so that we know what's going on and that we can do everything we can to elevate what those guys are doing.
No, that sounds awesome. So to be able to work or kind of interact or just kind of help promote athletes' stories, because I feel
Mhm.
like athletes do so much that only time a lot of things, get brought to attention is when something negative happens. And I'm
Mhm.
sure, they probably, and when those negative things do happen, I'm sure just bad moment, bad situation. But so many athletes year round actually do a lot of positive things, and it's just so glad, so refreshing to hear about just some of those initiatives that people are doing.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think that that's probably one of the biggest challenges that we have in what we're doing is, one bad story can like knock out 100 good stories. So, and
mhm,
everybody focuses on the bad when it's like, no, 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 like that's one isolated incident. Like, look at all the other stuff that's going on. So,
mhm.
that's definitely one of the challenges, but we're going to keep fighting it as much as we can because we can't let like one bad situation, negate all of the good.
I agree totally. Is there one social media platform that maybe is more of a challenge than another? I don't know if that even makes sense asking that question, but
As far as like getting our information and our stories out there.
yeah.
So we've been really utilizing Instagram, Twitter, and we're starting to dabble in the TikTok space. I'm
Hmm.
personally not very good at TikTok, so I
We
would say
we
that was more challenging for me. So,
yeah, we here on the same page.
yeah, so I
My
think
brother
that like
sends me TikTok videos all the time. I was like, look, bro, I'm not getting a TikTok. Like,
yeah, exactly.
it's
It's
not for
it's
me.
uh it's I mean it's really important to use it, especially when we're trying to target like that younger demographic.
Hmm.
So we're working with our social team to kind of figure out the best way to make it come to life. But like I'm like, listen, I Twitter and Instagram, sure, let's talk all day, but like TikTok, I promise you I can't help very much.
Yeah, that's totally how I feel. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
um,
what we
hey,
do, we also do a lot of AMAs, the Ask Me Anything on Reddit, and those
okay.
actually are really like successful for us. I don't have as much of a role in those, but I know that we do set those up pretty frequently, and those have been really, really awesome.
That concludes our interview portion of the
Mhm.
capturing the game. So the next part is a game that me and Brady play. And unfortunately, Brady's not here today, so it'll just be me and you.
Mhm.
Where we do either or, so it's pretty much our rapid fire, and we just
Mhm.
call it the game within the game segment. So my question for you is, are you ready to play?
I am ready to play. Let's do it.
Okay, so let me start you off with a simple question: TV shows or movies?
Personally, I say movies.
Okay.
I like to just commit to something once and then I don't have to I want to know the end of the story right there. I
Yeah.
do like a lot of TV shows, but I find myself getting really into it up front and then I kind of taper off because I'm like, oh, I get busy, I get distracted, whatever. So I
Yeah.
definitely say TV shows because I could get those one shot deal. I know exactly what happens. I know the whole storyline, how it ends. We're good to go.
Yeah. I'm a TV show type person, so I love just a good TV shows.
Mhm.
For the sadly, a lot of times some of the TV shows endings are bad.
Mhm.
But just
Except
to
for The
have
Sopranos.
Sopranos is one of the goats. Like,
Mhm.
so I can't argue with the Sopranos. So even especially if the way that the Sopranos ended as well. But the yeah, good TV show gives me a lot of content I'm happy with, and just gives me stuff to look forward to season after season or episode after episode, just to build
Mhm.
up and watching the finale.
Mhm.
Um, so next question is, are you a chocolate chip fan or oatmeal raisin cookie fan?
See, this is hard for me because I like both a lot, but I'm gonna have to go against the norm and say oatmeal raisin. I don't know. I just
I I'm a oatmeal raisin person, so
Oh, okay, good. So we're on the same page here.
we're on the
Good,
same page. So
good, good.
I can't deny a good warm, soft, gooey oatmeal cookie,
Hmm.
oatmeal raisin cookies. So that's one of my favorites. Growing up, you couldn't tear me away from chocolate chip cookies though. So
Hmm.
I feel like I portrayed chocolate chip cookies fandoms out there. So
Nah, I feel because my thing is you can get your chocolate fix in so many other ways. And
this
chocolate
is
chip
true.
cookies are great. They're a classic, but you can get your chocolate fix in other ways. Where oatmeal raisin, there's not much else that you can kind of get that flavor from.
Yeah. So here's another question for you. What is your favorite sports moment that you watch or seen or witnessed, or it could be either in person or you've seen on television?
Does it have to be professional sports?
No.
No. Okay. So it actually happened last week. So my
Okay.
younger sister plays soccer for Georgetown. She's a
Okay.
senior this year. And they're still playing. They're still in the NCAA tournament. They actually have a game tonight for the Sweet 16. But for the Big East Championship, my sister scored the game winning goal in overtime. And I don't think I've ever, felt more excited or more emotional about a sports moment because that was my sister and she deserved it and it was a
Yeah.
sick goal and also there was some banter but they played Butler. There was some banter between the Butler team and the Georgetown team, talking smack to my sister and blah blah blah. So it was just a really sweet moment and she's such a humble person too and she never ever gets the spotlight. So for her to score the overtime goal in the Big East Championship her senior year, I was just I was watching it because it was overtime. I was watching it at home, but I had to run out. So I'm watching it on my phone and she scores and I scream in the middle of the street in New York City. People are looking at me. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. My sister scored. Oh my God. So that was definitely one of the sweetest sports moment for me.
That's awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so now we gotta play this next role. So you're the play announcer. Give me the play by play of how the goal scored. Like, was it left post, right post, low? Like, what, right foot, left foot? What? How did it happen? How did it go down?
So I think it was about 3 minutes into overtime. The ball was about at midfield. My sister gets it. She starts to dribble it out sort of wide down the line and then
Hmm.
starts to cut in. And you see two defenders come towards her. And I
Yeah,
think that they thought that she was going to either take it further or cross it because I didn't really pressure her too much.
yeah,
And she just looked up and she saw the keeper was off of her line and
yeah.
she just shot the ball like not a chip
Oh,
necessarily, but like right over her into the back
yeah.
corner of the net. Sweet goal, no questions asked. That's it, game over. So it was unbelievable. And even like afterwards, they like panned, like it was on FS1. So they panned over to my sister. She's like has her hands on her face. She's like crying. She can't believe that it just happened. And no, it was great. I think I've watched the goal at least like 1,000 times at this point, and I still can't believe I'm like that was like too perfect. Like how did you do that? That was like literally too perfect.
Who was the so let me ask you this. So now who was the better soccer player, you or your sister?
Definitely her. She's phenomenal. She's an awesome. I'd like to consider myself a very good athlete, and I think
Yeah.
if we're talking about if me and her have to go run a marathon, I'll beat her in a marathon. But she's a phenomenal soccer player.
Okay. Is it just you and your sister?
Yeah, just the two of us, and
Okay,
we're super
okay,
super close.
okay. So I was wondering how deeply or um who was better at what sports growing up.
Mhm.
So
I think for me, like I said, I was kind of like more involved in like everything, and like I like running and things like that, and she's like very good at soccer.
okay. Now I have to go look up the goal after
Mhm.
we get done with this podcast just to
Oh, I'll
see.
send it to you. I have it on tap. I'm ready. I've been
Yes,
sending it to everybody. I'm like, I haven't
please
talked to you in a
do.
couple of years. Here, watch this goal.
Please do, because I'm gonna definitely I'll probably tweet it out, but like, yo, check out this goal.
Yeah.
So
And the best part too is last game she just played a couple of days ago, first round of the NCAA tournament. Actually, the second round of the
mhm.
NCAA tournament. They had a bye. She scored the game-winning goal in that too. It wasn't. It was still. It was a sick goal, but the Big East championship overtime goal just had like a very, very like emotional impact.
Yeah. How closely do you follow other professional sports such as soccer or even baseball?
So I try to follow baseball as much as I can. Obviously, there's 162 regular season games, so it's
Yeah.
I can't catch everything, but I try to follow baseball. Like I think also being a huge Yankee fan growing up, that's just been like ingrained in my culture.
Hmm.
Like I said, my dad and I used to go to games like all the time. That was a much different team than the Yankees now, but
Oh
we
yeah.
almost have like a second dynasty coming. So like last night, the Yankees played the Astros. That was always a fun time to play the Astros. But I do
Yeah.
follow baseball. I follow obviously college soccer, women's college soccer very closely. I think even just disregarding the fact that my sister plays, obviously there's a invested interest there. I just love watching college soccer. I think it's like super interesting for someone who also played the NWSL a little bit, but I really enjoy watching the World Cup and the Olympics. Those are like the best across the world. So really really big fan of that of those tournaments as well.
Okay. Yeah, because the reason why I asked, so because I know one of our interns, Kyle, he does the video editing for us, and he is a huge Yankees fan. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't know. I think maybe one day I'll see if you're not too busy, if we can just hop on and talk about baseball one day.
Sure,
And
absolutely. I'd love to.
yeah, he would enjoy that. I'll be outnumbered because I'm a White Sox fan, but that's okay.
That's all good. You could still join the banter.
Oh man. So that kind of leads me to my next question. So if you had a chance to take over any organization, who do you choose and why?
Any organization, doesn't matter what sport.
Doesn't matter what sport. We're gonna open the field up.
Hmm. Any organization. I got to think about this. Um, Honestly, I mean, my first thought was, thinking football wise, I was going to say, the XFL. I think that there's so much opportunity
Mm,
there, and football is one of the few sports that doesn't really have like a semi-pro league or like some
mhm,
type of farm system. So obviously, college football is huge, and that kind of serves as the grassroots
mhm.
up into the pros. But I still, for like the kids and the guys who get overlooked in college, but they still have the talent there, like unless they're getting an opportunity to go to their pro days or get invited to the combine or somehow get invited to a workout, there's nothing that really like they can do in between college and getting signed to an NFL team that can help showcase their talent. So
Mm,
the XFL to me is just like a really, really awesome opportunity for those players who have the talent but don't really have a means of showing it, or haven't, had a chance to do those pro days, the combine, etc. Um, but if we're talking about any sport, I think I would like to, you know, I would like to take over like an NWSL team, not the organization, not the governing body, not the whole organization. I think one of the
mhm,
teams would be very interesting. Just coming from, the league office over here, you have a much different sense of,
mhm,
how everything is run, and I think that it would be very interesting to see how to leverage professional women's soccer, because I know that's been a challenge to, get elevating the game of professional women's soccer outside of, the national team gets a ton of
mhm,
recognition. But I know a lot of girls who are super talented players that enter the NWSL and quit after season because they simply don't make enough money to live, and they're like,
mm,
it's not worth it for me to play, because unless you are an Alex Morgan, or you're getting a lot of endorsement money, or you're playing at the national level, like on the women's national team,
mhm.
there are girls who have told me that it costs them more money than they were making to play on the team. So I would love to, be involved in that, and continue to fight for, that to the compensation to be elevated and match.
No, you bring up a excellent point. It's not even just the women's soccer league, but it's also just women's professional sports in entirety.
Mm-hmm.
They're seen and viewed and treated, as lower, and it doesn't really get as much as attention that it most certainly deserves.
Right.
And I definitely want to just continue to see more women's sports grow. Another thing that we do cover on Capture the Game is the WNBA, and we haven't really divvy or dabbled into the women's soccer league that much, but with you sending me this video, I'm definitely going to try to start looking out for that, because I mean, I love soccer. I saw a little bit about myself. I grew up playing soccer a little bit, not too much. My high school didn't have um, a team, so I kind of stopped playing when I got to high school. But soccer is just super fun. It's a fun and competitive sport to play, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and I know that they've been trying to grow the men's game here, and with by adding teams and adding more stadium, and try to add more publicity,
Mm-hmm.
publicity. I can't say that word,
Publicity.
man.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
it.
So, but yeah, I mean, but definitely women deserves that right too, and just be able to want to just see that game grow.
Yeah, and not because I'm biased or anything, but
Yeah.
at least for me, women's soccer and men's soccer are the exact same game. There is no difference. You play on the same field, same size, same, the goals are the same size, the ball is the same size, the time is the same. Everything about the men's game is the same for the women's game. So there's still a lot of work to be done, of course, and there's
Mhm.
arguments to be made on both sides, but at the same time, I think that, there are not many team sports that are exactly the same for both men and for women.
No, you're right. You're right about that, because
Mm-hmm.
there isn't every game. When you look at men's and women's in sports, there is some type of difference somewhere. Whether it's when you look at the WNBA and the NBA, they play 10-minute quarters versus 12-minute quarters. Or when you look at even just the college basketball for women and men, they women and they play in quarters, men plays in halves. So there, soccer, I didn't even think about that, but soccer probably is the only sport that does it is equal. It's the same. No, just roll the ball out there and let's go to work.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Man. Okay. I gotta get my game up. I gotta get my knowledge up in soccer. So I feel
I'll
like
help. I promise I'll help.
okay. I'm gonna count on you. Um, what is your favorite jersey or colorway in the NFL?
Ooh, my favorite jersey. So I am a huge fan of purple. Purple's my
Okay.
favorite color, so I guess I'll have to go with the Vikings for that.
Now we got in the podcast. You just claim like one
I
of my arch
love, I love,
rivals.
it's part of, not, it's not the reason I went to NYU, but part of the
Yeah.
reason that I was like, oh yeah, NYU's a good fit is because it's purple and purple's my favorite color. But I do also really like the Raiders. I love the black. I think that's
Hmm.
super like, chic and like bad. Can I say badass? Am I allowed to say that? It's
Yeah, you can say that.
badass.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's like super badass. So, those if I had to go by favorite color, I would say purple for Vikings. But if I had to go with like just like really cool jersey, I think the Raiders have a really cool jersey.
Okay. No, I agree with that. I really do like the Raiders. That I mean, you get that black and white look, that black, white, and gray.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's iconic. Another
And
jersey
because it's
for.
so simple, no other team in the league can do it.
Hmm.
Whereas you can have two teams that are like sort of blue, like you have like some teams that like if you look at the Broncos and the Bears, they both kind of have orange. So, but because you can't, replicate black or white in a different way, there's no variation of that. The Raiders have a monopoly over it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And so, because I can't tell you how many times like I maybe had some Bears gear on, and they're like, "Oh, you're a Broncos fan?" I'm like, "No, I'm a
No.
Bears fan." So that's one of my complaints about the uniforms, and I guess that's probably why I gravitate to the White Sox because they wear that black and white.
There you go. Yep.
So, that wraps up our capturing our rapid fire round. One of my last questions for you is: can you tell us where people can follow you or find you at on all your social media platforms?
Sure. So it's just Melissa_Menta on Instagram. LinkedIn is my name, Melissa Menta. If you want to check out any of the player podcasts that we did, right now it's under the NFL Legends podcast, but it will soon be shifting to the NFL Players podcast on Apple and Spotify. But also, if anybody wants to reach out, my personal email is melissamenta4@gmail.com. So happy to help however I can.
All right. Thank you for your time, Melissa. This was fantastic. And to everyone out there listening, stay tuned. See us tune in next week for another episode. Peace out.
Awesome. Thanks.